News talk you can trust. This is Mornings on the Dove.
Hey, good morning to you. Happy Monday. How you doing? Welcome to the Dove Morning Show. I'm Perry along with Mr. Steve Johnson.
Happy Monday to you. Good to see you.
And Jackson County Fair in the history books, huge success. Church
Seems
at the
to be.
fair, you kind of were out there for that.
Yeah.
And here we are starting another political convention. Starts this week in Philadelphia, and things aren't getting off too good of a start.
Right, controversies from the beginning. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, of course, the chairman, resigning, and it looks as if Bernie was the victim of the DNC supporting Hillary. And day one hasn't even started, has it?
Hadn't even started, and this scandal is huge, absolutely huge. I mean, it's the worst nightmare that the Democrats could have going into a convention that hasn't even officially opened yet. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that this morning. Guess who's going to be with me a little bit later on? This ought to be interesting.
Oh, who's that?
Dick Morris.
Oh, good. Wow.
And I interviewed him years ago. It's been a while since I've had a chance to talk to him. And he's got a new book out called Armageddon that seemingly is deals with the Democratic Party and in particular Hillary's campaign. But he also worked for the Clintons for about 8 years.
Yeah, amazing.
Inside the Clinton White House. So anyway, kind of fun to talk to him. That'll be coming up a little bit later on. And we got some hot weather on tap. Yeah, I mean, we're talking hot weather. This is the stuff that we tried to avoid during the fair, but now it's on us. We'll talk about that as well. So anyway, we got coming up.
Well, in fact, we're going to be telling you about a wildfire that has started. It is taking place in Oregon. It's not really huge, but it is a good reminder of that problem. California, of course, having their wildfires. We'll fill you in on that. Do you want a back-to-school job? You know, kids are heading back to school. Maybe you're looking for that job as well. We've got one that might fit the bill for what you're looking for. And also, it looked like more people out running this weekend, making sure they were hydrated, braving the potential heat anyway. We'll tell you about that. And a new political party. If you don't like the Democrats or the Republicans or the Independents or the Green Party or whatever, got another one to tell you about.
The Dove Party.
No, not quite. Not quite. I'll tell you about that.
Okay. Anyway, let's take a look at this weather map as we head out on a new week. And the satellite image shows absolutely severe clear weather over the top of the western part of the United States. I mean, we're talking a big high-pressure ridge over the top of us. And we're going to see temperatures move into the triple digits as we get into the middle of the week and down towards the end of the week. And as you can see, there is just nothing over the Pacific Northwest. We'll give you the details on the forecast coming up in just a moment, but let's get you caught up on this Monday morning, and there's a lot of news. Here's Steve Johnson.
Good morning. It is 3 minutes after the hour, and here's a look at the latest from the Dove newsroom. German authorities say an Afghan friend of the Munich mall shooter who killed 9 people last week may have known of the attack in advance. Police say the 16-year-old has been arrested, and investigators have retrieved a deleted chat between him and the attacker on the message app WhatsApp. And police say that from the chat, it appears that the friend met at the attacker at the scene of Friday's rampage and knew he had a pistol. Investigators say the 2 teenagers met last year as inpatients at a psychiatric ward. Well, Democratic National Committee Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz has stepped down as the latest scandal in the Clinton camp surfaces. DNC leaders want it before the convention opens to avoid bad press. At issue, thousands of DNC staff emails showing partially favoring Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders in the mode of operations of the DNC, which is supposed to be neutral. Many Bernie Sanders supporters are now flocking to Philadelphia, taking to the streets of the city of brotherly love to show their support.
Well, I feel the Democratic nominee ought to be Bernie Sanders. I think the Clinton people stole it. I think the corruption is starting to become more publicly known with the WikiLeaks and such.
That is Bernie Sanders supporter John Heath, and DNC Vice Chair Donna Brazil takes the reins for the interim for the convention and through the election. She will have to suspend her contract as CNN political commentator to avoid conflict of interest charges. Fire crews continued to make progress on Sunday, battling a wildfire about 9 miles north of Condon, Oregon, burning on Bureau of Land Management and Gilliam County protected lands. Fire grew about 9% overnight, bringing it to almost 8 square miles in size. Heat and dry fuel sources of vegetation have caused another wildfire in California. Thousands of Southern California residents near the edge of the Santa Clarita and Angeles National Forests remain evacuated as 2 separate wildfires once again threaten to join forces. Firefighting efforts have been in full force since Friday. Rugged terrain makes it tough going for the responders to the blaze, which is now nearing 25,000 acres. Some Sand Canyon residents are being allowed back to their homes, or for some of them, what is left of them. It's been 2 decades since the blaze in this area. That, combined with years of drought, excessive heat, and low humidity condition, was a perfect recipe for disaster. Firefighting efforts continue today. Well, as the school year nears, there are some job options you might have as kids get back into the classroom. The First Student Bus Company has some new job openings for bus drivers in Oregon. You might have seen them on Biddle Road in front of Sherm's Food for Less. Bus driver Chad Francis talks about the opportunities and requirements for around 25 to 30 new positions in the area.
It's awesome. You do require a CDL, a Class B. First Student does free training. You would normally have to pay for that training if you wanted to go be a truck driver or something similar, but they do it for free. And they also pay for all your DMV fees. Once you get hired, you get reimbursed for those.
Now, wages are between $12 and $16 based on experience, and there are many flexible schedules and routes available. You can contact First Student to see if it could be your back-to-school plan. Well, for a running event that is usually plagued with wildfire smoke, this year's Siskiyou Outback 15K, 50K, and 50-mile trail runs had nothing but clean mountain air for athletes Saturday morning. Hayden and Ashley Hawks of St. George, Utah have been on vacation, leading them to races throughout the West Coast. 15-kilometer course along the California-Oregon border on the Pacific Crest Trail seemed to fit Hayden well, who won the race in 57 minutes, 35 seconds.
Well, me and my wife, we went on a vacation. We went over the Lost Coast Trail over in California, ran that, and then just decided to come up here and enjoy this race, kind of get a summer race in.
Ashley Hawks was the first female to cross the line as well in 1 hour 10 minutes. Eric Gelfie won the 50K in 3 hours 41 minutes, and 50-mile winner Brett Hornig made his way all the way back into California and back in 6 hours 52 minutes. For complete results of the event, you can visit SiskiyouOutback.com. Well, it wasn't all rides, fast food, and farm animal competitions at this year's Jackson County Fair. For the first time, a Church at the Fair event has been held at the Expo Center, amphitheater that is, in Central Point. And Pastor Dale Schaefer says it began as an idea outreach planning for the Medford First Church of the Nazarene after putting in place a goal months earlier to find a way to reach out to the Southern Oregon community.
We were considering a large-scale outreach event where we would celebrate the fact Jesus changes lives. So we're going to celebrate baptisms out here today. We're going to really kind of 2 goals for the event. One is we want to honor God, and we want to honor the guests that come on the campus this weekend.
Schaefer says his goal is to make sure that those hundreds attending the event know that their life can be changed. Fair organizer Helen Funk says they are hoping a similar event will be held during next year's fair. 8.5 minutes now after the hour. Let's find out about the weather scene as we start the new week. Perry's got our forecast.
Well, here we go. End of July, and we're going to see some triple digits again. Remember, we haven't seen any triple digits until around the 1st of June, so it's been very pleasant weather. But now things are going to change, at least probably around the middle of this week. Today, Northern California could see 100, and you'll move up from there. You could see as high as 106 by Friday with sunshine. Over in the Klamath Basin, low 90s, moving to the upper 90s by the end of the week. Just sunny skies right on through, very mild back into the 50s in the evening. The coast, well, pretty typical, but it will warm up. You'll have sunshine and clouds mixed with the fog, and when the sun's out, it'll move from the low 70s to the mid 70s, up and down the southern Oregon coast. Even the high desert's going to warm up around 90 today, and you'll get up to the mid and upper 90s by Thursday and Friday with sunny skies. And for Southern Oregon, Medford, Ashland, and Grants Pass, here we go. Upper 90s for a couple of days. We'll see triple digits starting on Wednesday. And it looks like it's going to be pretty hot right on through until Friday with at least 105 there. So we'll keep an eye on it. But we're into a very firm high-pressure ridge. And the triple digits, the 100-degree plus weather, probably midweek all the way through the upcoming weekend. We'll keep an eye on that. But it is going to warm up. All right, well, are you politically worn out. We got another convention to go. The D's and the R's, you know, I think both parties are forever changed as a result of this election cycle in many, many ways. So is it time for a new party?
It looks like there is a new one that's out there, as if we needed more. You know, you think of the Republicans, Democrats, two top big ones, and you have independents, you have the Green Party, the People's Party, it goes on and on. So if you're just saying, you know what, I want another party, it looks like some Oregon voters might like this one, because the Marijuana Party, they're looking for a spot on the November ballot in Nebraska. All right? I don't think marijuana is legal in Nebraska, but you can have a party anyway, I guess. So the Secretary of State's office says they've turned in about 9,000 petition signatures. They need about 5,400 to qualify for the ballot. And they say, of course, what do you think the platform is for the Marijuana Party?
Peace.
What's that?
Peace.
Oh, well, it's actually legalizing weed and promoting hemp farming. So they've got an economic background to their goal.
Oh.
So there you go. We'll have to see. I mean, you laugh about it, but, or at least I did, it could very well happen. I mean, it looks as if they've got almost twice the votes they need.
Can have a
right
party
now.
without forming a party.
That's true. In Nebraska, they'd probably still get busted. So
yeah, well,
it'll be interesting to see what support they get.
They're calling it the new gold rush. I don't know if it really is, but you kind of, I guess when the market gets saturated with marijuana, maybe the prices will go down.
Yeah, that could be.
I don't know. I can't believe we went down this road. Anyway, the Democrats start their convention today under an incredible cloud, and we'll be giving you some information about that. By the way, as we speak this morning, the police are now investigating a shooting in Florida where apparently it was a teenage party, and 2 are dead and 17 wounded. That the party spilled over into a parking lot, so we'll keep an eye on that for you. And what is the future of Fox News, right in the middle of all of these conventions? Roger Ailes is out. He was the kind of the manager, overall CEO of Fox News. Mr. Murdoch, who is the owner of Fox News, his parent company, name slips me, but he is now coming out of retirement back into Fox News to kind of hold things together, right smack in the middle of the most political part of the conventions and everything else. Fox News finds itself in a state of disarray. So a lot to talk about this morning, and we'll give you the details on that. But let's kind of get our heart and head right before we get into all that stuff. Let's get into the Word and let the Word get into us with our buddy Bob.
Hi there. The word for you today is on staying power. We've been talking about it for the last few days. Genesis 37 verse 5, the Bible says, Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him. You know what? Staying power overcomes misunderstanding and rejection. Sometimes the people you count on to support you will actually try to undercut you. When God gives you a vision that's too big for them to handle, sometimes they'll say, you're getting too big for your boots. And they'll actually try to cut you down to size, and I mean their size. Joseph's brothers are a case in point. They sold him into slavery, then went home and told their father he'd been killed by a wild beast. Can you imagine how Joseph felt when somebody asked him, tell me about your family? General Dwight D. Eisenhower put it this way, there are no victories at bargain prices. And sadly, betrayal happens as often in church as in secular society. Let me give you an illustration. When Charles Spurgeon was in his early 20s, such large crowds came to his church that the building couldn't accommodate them. So he met with 30 of his church leaders and suggested that they build an auditorium that would seat 5,500 people. Back in that day, that was a huge vision. And allegedly, Spurgeon told them that if any of them doubted the possibility of accomplishing this, they should leave. And 23 of them out of the 30 did. But Spurgeon held true to the vision God had given him. He had the stickability to see it through. And you know what? For the next 35 years, crowds packed the Metropolitan Tabernacle morning and night, making it one of the most influential churches in history. The songwriter put it this way, got any rivers you think are uncrossable? Got any mountains you can't tunnel through? God specializes in things thought impossible and he can do what no other can do. And that is the word for you today.
The word for you today, staying power. There's a great one for you. All right, again, reminding you, if you need a copy of this, there's always a few extra every quarter, but the new ones will be coming out, September already. Wow. We're almost into August. But anyway, if you've never had a copy of the word for you today, give us a buzz or just go online at theDove.us, click on devotional, and we'll get one out to you right away. Well, today is the opening day of the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia, and that's a great city, called the City of Brotherly Love, but already, some of the demonstrations are substantially larger than any demonstration they saw in Cleveland. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that it's been uncovered now that within the higher-ups of the Democratic Party, that their emails got hacked, and it proved that they were clearly pulling the strings for Clinton and against Bernie. And these kinds of scandal, Trump said it was rigged, Bernie said it was rigged, and guess what? It was rigged. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz, apparently, there's conflicting reports. You said one report says she's out, another one says she'll be out at the other convention, or she's going to resign. Anyway, she's basically out. And the other rumor is she's going to go to work for the Clinton campaign.
I think that would, you can imagine, after this kind of a scandal, which it does show that there was definite favoritism, that for Hillary, if she does that, that'll just be more fuel that Trump will be able to use to say, look, she just continues to make bad decisions. Somebody who's responsible for all of this, and you hire her, is there no end to the corruption? That's probably what he
I think that's to me, that's what it is. But, you know, on the other hand, she walks out of the DNC with a Rolodex of names and people that is very substantial to a campaign. This is red meat to the Clintons. They have that kind of access to that kind of information, and she's the person sitting in that chair that has all that information. So in some ways, when you're dealing with corruption, she's a very desired person to have on your team because she has all this information. So we'll see if it actually happens, but apparently she is out as chairman. Now, I can't imagine her getting up and speaking at this convention. In the meantime, the Bernie bunch has really been refueled. They're actually marching the streets, and here's the chant, hell no, she needs to go. And can you imagine that? I mean, that's what's happening outside the convention center. Some say she needs to be locked up, and so it's quite a deal. I mean, this is the worst way you could possibly open a convention, is to have this kind of a scandal. And here's the other thing. Hillary and all of her people are wrapped up in another email scandal. This is another email scandal. The emails of the DNC got hacked, and they're all over the place. About 20,000 of them. One of the reports I read last night, it listed about 50 of them and their contents. And I thought, wow, questioning Bernie's faith, trying to see if they could make him into an atheist so they could blast him out of the water with that.
And this is what caused Wasserman Schultz to have to step down.
It's just it's a big mess. So anyway, we'll unwrap that a little bit later on. And in the meantime, the Clinton Cash movie, as it's being seen on Facebook now, the Clinton Cash book has done very, very well, and it's now been going back up on the sales. But apparently, there's a movie now about Clinton Cash, and that has also done very, very well. What was the movie that D'Souza put out?
Hillary's America, the most recent one?
Hillary's America.
Yeah.
So you got Hillary's America, Clinton Cash book, Clinton Cash movie. All of the reviews over the weekend and the amount of people that saw both of those and seeing both of those continues to rise. So, boy, what an incredible thing. 19.5 past the hour. We'll keep an eye on all this for you. What do you got coming up, Steve?
Well, headlines from around the state we'll let you know about, and kind of an update more on the passing of something that you most likely were a big part of when it came where you could have movies at your house. How did you get them on a VCR tape? Well, we'll tell you about a company that's also saying that now we're finally reaching the end. We had this earlier story. This is an update on the end of an era. In just a few minutes here on The Dove.
This is Mornings on The Dove.
Hi, I'm Jason.
And I'm Jesse, and we're with the Rogue Valley Mobile Pack.
6,200 children die each day of hunger, but there is a way you and your family can make a difference.
Your one-time donation of $80 will feed a starving child for a year. So every night when you're having your dinner, a child will be having a warm meal as well.
We hope you consider this unique opportunity and join our efforts.
For more information and to donate, go to rvmobilepack.com.
Good morning, 23 minutes after the hour. This is Mornings on the Dove as we take a look at the newspaper headlines around the state, starting first with the Medford Mail Tribune. And it was like the cover article on Sunday's newspaper, but you can still check it out on their website. And it deals with Southern Oregon University students helping in an archaeological dig as a result of the rogue Indian wars that happened along the coast. It's kind of an interesting thing in history that maybe you were unaware of. You can check it out. It happened in the 1850s. Let's head over to Grants Pass and the Daily Courier and some things coming up. You know, this is hot season comes and everything, and it's great for car shows and all the rest. Well, they've got the Back to the 50s coming up at Riverside Park this weekend. You can read about that if you've got a classic hot rod. You might want to think of entering that for sure. Heading over to the coast now at theworld@theworldlink.com. Coos County real estate market is on the upswing, and in what way? Well, they said the average time that a home was on the market in May, just 2 months ago, was 105 days. Compared to a year ago, it was 184 days. So homes are selling faster. Good news there. From the Bend area in the Bend Bulletin, some Marines are sharpening their skills while they're cleaning up the Deschutes Forest site. How do you go about doing that? Well, you can check that out. And from the Portland area in the Oregon Live website, we do have a few fires in our area, and the Warm Springs Reservation fire grows to about 1,000 acres in just a few hours. It started Sunday afternoon. Grass and juniper trees were in that area that it consumed. So getting a handle on these, but it does show that we are in fire season for sure. And speaking of hot weather, Perry's got our latest weather forecast for this week.
Well, meteorologist Rick Holtz emailed me and said, hey, this high pressure over the top of us is pretty strong, and it's going to produce some warm temperatures. Taking a quick look at it, the entire western part of the United States is under a very dominant high pressure ridge, and that's going to produce some hot temperatures. Northern Cal today, you could see triple digits with lots of sunshine, back to about 59 or 60 degrees for tonight. Over in the Klamath Basin, you're already 57. You're going to get up into the upper 80s and low 90s today. The coast, in and out of, well, some fog and low clouds. When the sunshine is out, the temperatures are going to move well into the 70s through the week. The high desert, currently 54. You're going to bump to about 90 or so today, and you'll stay in the upper 90s through the weekend. And for southern Oregon, right now, the forecast calls for temperatures well into the 90s today with lots of sunshine, and looks like we're going to see triple digits as we move down towards the week, and sometimes it could be very hot. So we're well into that season with that high pressure ridge, so we'll keep an eye on that for you. All right, it's about 25 past the hour. What you got, Steve?
Well, it's the end of an era. We told you that some of the, and I didn't know that they were still making VCRs. Who's buying them? Somebody has been, apparently. Well, now you could get something at the end of an era, and I'll give you the information that we know about. The last video cassette recorder is going to be made sometime this month by Funai Electric. You might have seen the Funai VCRs that have been on the market. Not lately, I haven't, but I remember when they were. And they'd wanted to continue production to meet consumer requests, but they say they can't. Apparently, there is some sort of demand there. Is this going to be like turntables, where people say, well, it just sounds so much better? Well, videotape, it's going to look better. It has that videotape look to it all that makes it better. So there you go. You can still convert your tapes using the VHS DVD recorder players made by other companies. So I'm not sure that you'd want to do that unless you have some home videos that you made in that kind of year. By the way, get this. Perry, again, I thought videotape was long gone. Funai made 750,000 units that played or recorded cassette tapes. All right? So maybe it's a lot of people transferring their old tapes onto DVD or something like that. Back in 2000, it made 15 million of them. It does show how much they came down, but I thought that they had quit making them 10 years ago or so. But sometime this, so who knows, maybe you'll have a classic. You'll have the last production run of video cassette recorders. Maybe that'll sell for something on eBay at some point. Well, I do know that some filmmakers are still using some film. Yeah, yes, right. And some photographers are still using some film. Yeah, it gets expensive, and there is a reason for that, but we're talking about videotape, which I don't know anyone would say, yeah, it looks better than whatever you can get now. So good luck on that. But they're still making them. That's just what I'm amazed at. I remember my first television show that I did on Channel 40 in Sacramento. I did a half-hour outdoor show, and they would record it on these big videotape machines. Right, yeah. And then they put them in carts. They have these little carts, things they put them in, like a cassette, but it was a video cassette. But they were fairly good size. And then they put them in this thing called a carousel. Yeah, yeah. And it would go around like that, and that carousel would pull out one of those carts and play it at the right time. The problem is that those carousels went upside down. And every once in a while, you know, you'd come out and you'd be kind of wobbly before you got it going and stuff like that. Now it's all been replaced with digital. So. Yeah, yeah. There were always problems when you had a power drop, and those carousels would go crazy. Either everything would start playing all at once, or it'd start moving around, doing weird things. So, yeah, there were a few problems there. There you go. All right, 28 minutes now past the hour. Coming up a little bit later on, Carly Olson will be with us, and one of the winners of her speech, and we'll be talking to her. Dick Morris will be with us, political analysis, who served in the Clinton as a Clinton political consultant for years with them, and he'll comment on both conventions and his latest book dealing with what's it called? Armageddon, excuse me, almost forgot. Yeah. So, and that has to deal with Hillary. So, should be fun. It's been a long time since I've had a chance to talk to Dick Morris. So, some good things that are happening out there. 28 and a half now past the hour. One of the things that we're watching is what will happen to Fox News. And one of the reports is that I read over the weekend, Rupert Murdoch, who's kind of like, you know, he was the founder of all of that, and he headed the company, that apparently one of his sons couldn't stand the possibility of Trump becoming president and went after Roger Ailes. And then Roger Ailes had some, well, he got a couple of lawsuits against him for
misconduct, we'll put it that way. So the combination of all of that, he quickly resigns. And before his resignation, most of the headliners on Fox News said that they would go with him because their contracts end when he ended. Well, they haven't gone anywhere. In the meantime, Murdoch, who was the owner, the founder, who kind of stepped out and let his sons run, and he's out over here in retirement land, has come back in to take Roger Ailes' place temporarily to keep Fox News in place. And here you are going into the Democratic convention, and you're only a few months out from the election. And so far, from what I can sense and feel, nobody's walking. Everything's going to stay in place.
So far, so good.
So
yeah.
far, so good. So we'll see what happens. But some of the negative people are saying, well, this is the end of Fox News. They're going to go down the drain, this and that. Well, the only ones that I can think of are two people that are not real happy with what's going on. They may walk as their contracts come up for renegotiation. The rest of them seem to be staying in place. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. Excuse me. It's 1:30 on this week that's going to be more like summer. It's going to get warm and in the triple digits throughout most of the areas, so be careful. What do you got coming up?
Well, on this Monday, maybe you're heading back to work. How long can you keep working until your brain shuts down?
Huh?
It's an interesting synopsis and an interesting conclusion come to, because depending on your workload and how you work, your brain could shut down faster than other people. Kind of a strange thing. We'll tell you about that and all the news, of course, that's making the headlines coming up in just about 3 minutes here on the Dove.
This is Mornings on the Dove.
Steve Johnson here from The Morning Show. You know, they say love is a many-splendored thing. Maybe you have found that to be true with that special someone in your life. But how do you really know if you are in love? Chip Ingram is going to be delving into that topic on the Dove TV tonight. You'll want to stay tuned. It begins at 9:30 p.m. right here on the Dove. Good morning, 26 now before the top of the hour. I'm Steve Johnson, and here's a look at the latest from the Dove newsroom. The Democratic National Convention kicks off today in Philadelphia amid a backdrop of lingering bitterness among supporters of defeated candidate Bernie Sanders over a process they say was tilted in favor of Hillary Clinton. Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz has also tendered her resignation after emails indicate party leadership backed Hillary Clinton and not Bernie Sanders. Sanders will meet in private with his supporters today before the convention starts and address the full convention tonight. Well, in a country trying to still figure out a random mass shooting on Friday that has left 9 dead, now comes another random act of deadly violence in the country. A woman was killed with a machete and 2 others wounded near a bus depot in the German city of Reutlingen by a Syrian asylum seeker. He was arrested and his motive is not known at this point. Witness in a car hit the suspect and authorities were able to apprehend 21-year-old Syrian refugee on the site. He was known to police for previous acts of violence. So far, over 190 unaccompanied minors and 120 women alone were part of the nearly 1,000 refugees and migrants rescued who've arrived to open arms at the ports of Cagliari in Italy. And according to the United Nations Refugee Agency, that brings the number there in 2016 to nearly 80,000 that have landed safely, many from Algeria and others who risk their lives in unseaworthy boats and dinghies. Nearly 3,000 have been reported dead or missing on those journeys in 2016. Majority of those risking the dangerous crossing are fleeing war, violence, and persecution in one of the top 10 nationalities, making up nearly 83% of the arrivals. The Oregonian is asking a state judge for a temporary restraining order to keep the Grant County Sheriff from deleting his government emails. The Oregonian reports that their lawyers asked for the restraining order on Friday. They say Sheriff Glenn Palmer systematically destroys his official emails in a potentially criminal practice that they say should be stopped. Well, back to school could mean more back to opportunities work for some. The First Student Bus Company can train you to be a bus driver, complete with training available. Recruitment efforts continue on Biddle Road in front of Sherm's Food for Less. Bus driver Dan Morgan says it's a job he enjoys because of the positive influence he can have on young people.
Working for First Student, I really like a lot. I'm almost 60 years old, and I had the time of my life a lot of times. These kids, you can have a certain amount of influence with these kids and giving them a positive attitude and stuff, and sometimes they don't get that at home. And we as bus drivers, we try really hard to do that.
Wages are between $12 and $16 based on experience, and there are many flexible schedules and routes available. You can contact First Student to see if it could be in your back-to-school plans. Saturday morning runners took over the Pacific Crest Trail from Mount Ashland to California in the Siskiyou Outback Trail Runs. In an event featuring a 15K, 50K, and 50-mile runs, it's all about surviving, conquering the numerous peaks and thin air. Eric Gelfie of Ashland says he began to cramp up during the 50K, but he pushed through for the win.
It went really well. During the middle of the race, I had some stomach issues, and I kept looking over my shoulder thinking someone was going to come catch me. But as they went away, I don't know. Sometimes that's just the nature of these kinds of races. You go through ups and downs.
Gelfie's time for covering the 50 kilometers was 3 hours 41 minutes. Molly Schmelzel was the first lady in the 50K event in a time of 4 hours 32 minutes. Hayden and Ashley Hawks, a young married couple of St. George, Utah, were the winners in the 15K. Brent Hornig and Stephanie Worth were the victors in the 50-mile California and back adventure. For complete results of the event, you can visit SiskiyouOutback.com. Few trends have begun at the Jackson County Fair this year that organizers hope will continue next year. In addition to free admission and parking on the fair's last day Sunday, a first ever Church at the Fair service was held at the Expo Amphitheater. Pastor Dale Schaefer of the Medford First Church of the Nazarene says it's the type of event they'd been looking to be a part of for the past 2 years with a single goal.
We want to make a big deal that Jesus changes lives. So hopefully, one of the things that happens this weekend is that people walk away knowing that God can change their life regardless of where they're at right now. I don't know that you can quantify that, but I believe that has dividends that it pays off in families, in neighborhoods, in workplaces, and throughout our community when people discover that reality.
Fair manager Helen Funk says this type of event is one they hope to repeat during next year's fair. It's now 21 minutes before the top of the hour. Let's find out what's happening on the weather scene with Perry.
Well, it's going to warm up, folks, as the weather chart shows that we have absolutely nothing over the Pacific Northwest. Actually, the western part of the United States, I would say from Kansas on out to the Pacific coast, is under a very dominant high pressure and looks just to be with clear skies and warm temperatures. This will drive the fire danger higher. Northern Cal, you're going to see triple digits. Yep. And starting possibly today, right on through the weekend, could get as high as 106. We'll keep an eye on that for you. In the meantime, Klamath Basin will be in the low 90s, climbing to the upper 90s by the end of the week with sunshine. The coast, you'll be in and out of coastal fog and low clouds. When the sun is out, it's going to push the temperatures well into the 70s, and that'll be your forecast through the week, through most of the week. The high desert also warming up into the low 90s and then moves to the mid and upper 90s by the end of the week, primarily with sunny skies and very mild at night, back in the upper 50s. And for southern Oregon, we're going to start off in the mid to upper 90s for a couple of days, and we possibly now will jump into triple digits from Wednesday on with pretty warm temperatures and clear skies right up through until Friday. Heading out of town, 88 in Portland, 83 in Seattle. That's pretty warm. 65 in San Francisco, 88 in LA, and triple digits now Las Vegas and Phoenix, about 112, 110. Triple digits in Salt Lake, 101. Woo. And as you hop over the Rockies into Denver, you'll see temperatures up around 95 degrees. So pretty warm over the western part of the United States. The Dow is out of the chutes this morning now. It's down about 52 points, and the NAS is off about 8, almost 9 points. We'll keep an eye on that and check in with Adam Reed in a little bit to find out just what's happening on the big board. Well, in the meantime, what you got, big guy?
Well, you know, you're probably heading off to work today, and you're thinking, okay, am I working too much? Am I working enough? Maybe you want to work more hours, but can you work too many? Well, there's a new study out of the University of Melbourne that indicates that could be the effect, especially if you are considered middle-aged. Now, the whole middle-age thing I've always thought is interesting. The average age of males and females, it ends up being, for males, about 72 from what I recall. You know, females a little bit more. So if you take middle age, what would half of that be? About 36. Right? So 36 would be right in the middle of middle age. And then you give 5 years on either side, you're starting in middle age at age 31 or so. Okay? Because otherwise we say, well, middle age starts at 50. Well, okay, if you're going to live to 100 or more, then that's true, but most people don't. So anyway, as you figure out what you think middle age actually is, the study here is interesting because they looked at how many hours that people actually work and the effect that it has. It's shown that people age 40 and older working up to about 25 hours per week boosts your memory. Okay, so there's the baseline. If you work up to 25 hours a week, your memory is boosted. Beyond that, though, is there a problem? Well, they found that with baby boomers in the U.S. who are now retiring like crazy, they suggested a part-time job that requires 20 to 30 hours could be what is needed. But here's what their study found. Beyond 25 hours, the middle-aged brain doesn't work as well, and it notes that that affects both men and women. Notably, employees who are in this age, who work especially long hours, do worse on cognitive tests. Okay, so they've done people who work a lot of hours that are middle-aged, however you want to define that, do worse on those tests, including memory, abstract reasoning, than people who don't work at all. Okay. So it's kind of think of it as a bell curve. 25, 30 hours, it's good. You start working more than that, and they're saying it can be a problem. So the conclusion they're coming up with is that if you work too much, the study shows it could have a problem with your cognitive thinking. So that is, again, people aged 40 and older who are working. So that's how they define middle age. You probably didn't think of 40 as middle age, but that's what they're saying. Interesting thing there. I mean, people all want to have a job, but the thing is for workaholics, they actually may see a negative effect eventually with cognitive reasoning and that kind of thing. So something to kind of keep in the back of your mind if you remember to, unless you're working a whole lot of hours and none of this makes sense.
That's interesting.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
So up to a point it's okay, and then you see some negatives going down. Something to mull over. At University of Melbourne, they know what they're talking about.
So if you go down that road, anybody over 60 shouldn't be running for president.
No, it's how many hours will they work while president? That's probably it. 25, 30 hours a week, that's good. Work more than that, cognitive ability might go down.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that one for you. All right, coming up a little bit later on, looking forward to talking to Dick Morris. Haven't talked to him quite a few years, but now he has a new book out, and we'll talk to him about that, and in particular, his thoughts on the Republican National Convention, and today is the beginning of the Democratic National Convention, which now opens up under not just a cloud, but a huge mess, as it's been proven now that the Democratic National Committee was favoring Hillary all along, and apparently about 20,000 emails got hacked. You know, isn't that another reason? I mean, if they can hack the State Department, they can hack Hillary's emails, now they can hack the DNC, they've hacked the Pentagon. I mean, it just shows you that we got this whole world, electronic world, that is not secure.
Right. The concept of privacy changes. Yeah.
It's just not secure. Well, anyway, 20,000 emails got hacked from the DNC, which proves that the DNC clearly was favoring Hillary over Bernie Sanders, and that Bernie was getting a bad deal. And then some of the things they were going after Bernie for, his faith, or calling him an atheist. I mean, some of these emails are scathing, and you think, whoa, what do you do with this? Well, in the meantime, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who is the congresswoman from Florida, who's been the chairman of the Democratic National Convention or committee for quite a few years, has now stepped down. Now, the question is, when does she really leave office? Some are saying today. This is it. She's out of there. We have to put another convention chairperson in. And it looks like that's being done as we speak. In the meantime, the Bernieites have been fired back up. What does he do? What does Bernie do tonight when he goes out and faces the crowd?
Yeah,
does he pull a Ted Cruz and not endorse Hillary or dis-endorse Hillary?
Oh, you know, he could do even more than that. He could come just, what does he have to lose at this point?
He's got everything to gain.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, he could come out and turn the convention into, because they don't vote until tomorrow night.
Right, he could even say, I'm back in. Can you imagine the Bernie crowd if he were to say that? No, we have no indication he would, but wouldn't that be something?
I mean, he is supposed to speak tonight. He cannot roll over and play dead, or he'll be seen as a sold-out, as one person said, puppy dog. And I'm going, all right, so what's he do? Or does he postpone his speech tonight? Because you're supposed to have former President Bill Clinton, President Barack Obama, and Vice President Joe Biden all speaking on Wednesday night. And so do you move those people around and push them over to Thursday when Hillary takes her acceptance speech, and you put Bernie somewhere else until this thing calms down? Do you put him as the frontliner on the stage tonight? Whoa, what a mess. It is a big mess. So we'll keep an eye on it for you. That's the big story of the day. So we'll watch it for you. 13 minutes before the hour as the morning news continues. And what do you got, Steve?
Well, we've got the Olympics coming up in August, 1 month away. And it looks like the Zika virus could be a bigger problem than what anyone has thought. We'll tell you why that is. Also, a preview of some of the news stories we're working on for the top of the hour. It's all coming up in about 3 minutes here on the Dove.
This is Mornings on the Dove.
Prayer's a big part of our Christian walk and a big part of what we do here at the Dove. We rely on your prayers for everything that we do here at the Dove, and we want to pray for you too. If you need prayer, go to thedove.us/prayer or click the prayer button in the Dove app and tell us your prayer need. We want to pray with you and believe in God's blessing for your life.
Good morning. About 9 minutes now before the top of the hour. This is Mornings on the Dove as we take a look at some of the news stories we're working on for the top of the hour, which includes the Democratic National Committee having some problems. That's right, because Bernie Sanders and his supporters now kind of gearing up after finding out that the emails that were leaked show, in fact, that the Democratic National Convention was backing Hillary and not Bernie. Now, he's going to be speaking tonight at the convention. Will it be full of bombshells? We'll have to wait and see about that. More also about the Munich shooter. An Afghan friend apparently may have known of this attack in advance. This is the one where 9 people were killed last Friday, so police are looking into that. The two of them may have met last year as inpatients of a psychiatric ward. Oregon has some small wildfires. The big one, of course, in California, where that is still being fought at this point. This is a source of vegetation, includes dry fuel in the area in Southern California near the Santa Clarita and Angeles National Forests. We'll keep you up to date with that. Maybe as your kids are going back to school, you're looking for a back-to-school job. Well, you actually almost could be driving them back to school. So there are some bus driver jobs available. We'll tell you about that. More on some running events. This is the time of year where people are certainly enjoying the out of doors. We'll tell you about a big Siskiyou Outback event, or events actually, that took place this weekend. And the Church at the Fair. This is the first time ever for the fair in Jackson County to have a church service at the Expo Amphitheater. And we'll kind of give you a wrap-up on that particular event that took place Sunday morning at about 9:30. And it looks like this kind of event will happen, of course, next year as well, because fair organizers say this is a good thing to keep going. All right, the Olympics are coming up next month. You know, August 5th is when it starts, so it's just a few weeks away. And then the Special Olympics actually on September 8th, also in Rio.
Wow.
And now they have found the presence of the Zika virus in common house mosquitoes. Now, this is a big problem because the microcephaly problem that pregnant women can experience with a child if they get bit by a mosquito like this is pretty great at this point. Researchers collecting 500 mosquitoes, they found the virus in 3 pools. So who knows how many more are out there. And they're saying kind of a weird thing. They say they're glad that they've got the information on this, but the information they have is not good information for sure. And they need to have more study to confirm whether it is actually this kind of mosquito that can be transmitting this virus. But it looks like that's not good news, especially as some Olympians now have, of course, said they're not going to be going to the Olympics because of this particular problem. And in one I think it was a CNN reporter who's pregnant, she says she's not going either. So not a good thing for Brazil, especially with all the other problems of security and safety that's also been raised for that Olympic
And then
event.
we ever find out what the final outcome is with the Russian Olympic team?
Well, they've said that they're not going to ban all the entire Olympic Russian teams. What they're going to do is, for those who have not been indicted because of doping, they're going to let the Russian teams that are in charge of, let's say, gymnastics or whatever it is, those teams decide if, in fact, they'll be coming or not. So it's not a full ban like it could have been for all Russians.
And have we determined that Rio's ready?
Well, I guess we'll find out, but they've had a lot of problems down there, both with policing and security and a wide raft of those things.
All right, well, a lot going on. And this week, as the Democratic National Convention starts today, under an incredible political cloud and scandal, and it appears now that the DNC was trying to rig the election. What do you do? I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, isn't it interesting that Donald Trump said it was rigged? Bernie Sanders said it was rigged, and now they have 20,000 emails that got hacked and got exposed that proves that it was rigged. And I thought it was interesting because here it is, the hottest story. It broke Friday, and here it is Monday, and it's just building and building. And Hillary was interviewed earlier this morning and said, well, she hadn't been following it. I mean, you got the DNC convention, you got the chairman of the convention resigning under a scandal that pretty much involves her as securing the nomination, and she's not paying any attention to it.
Yeah, well, she's not in charge of the DNC, she says.
And it looks like it's just a rumor at this point that if Schultz is out, she may go to work for Hillary.
I just find that astounding.
Astounding. And if that is the case, I mean, that's just red meat for Trump. But here's the other thing. I'm thinking, well, why would she do that? Well, I know why. That Schultz leads the DNC with a briefcase full of contacts. And that is big information when you're running a campaign. And she probably walks into Hillary's campaign probably in a senior management position.
Wow.
So anyway, we'll see what happens. All right, the morning news continues. The weather is it's going to be hot, and we'll give you the details on that coming up a little bit. But with this severe high pressure over most of the United States, at least the western part of the United States, here in the Pacific Northwest, we're going to see the temperatures that we normally expect for this time of the year. Dick Morris will be with me coming up on Focus Today a little bit later on, along with Carly Olson. She is the National Right to Life Oratory winner. We look forward to talking to her. And Jason and Jesse Lacato will be with us, mobile pack coordinators. We'll be getting an update on that project as well. Stick around. We'll be right back.
News talk you can trust. This is Mornings on the Dove.
Hey, good morning to you. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Dove Morning Show. I'm Perry along with Mr. Steve Johnson.
Hey, good Monday morning to you.
How was your weekend?
It was good. How was yours?
Good. You know,
Yeah.
It started to warm up a little bit, but it was very nice. And the Jackson County Fair came to an end, and what a great fair it was this year for Jackson County.
Yeah, anything under 100 degrees, I think, is good.
You know, we squeezed through the fair week with no triple digits.
Right.
And that was pretty good. However, not the case this week. This week, you're going to see some triple digits in the forecast, so we'll be talking about that a little bit later on. We got some great guests coming up, and of course, today is the opening day of the Democratic National Convention, and it's opening up not only just under a cloud, but now with a full-blown scandal going on, and it is pretty messy. We'll get into the details of that. What do you got coming up?
Yeah, well, we're going to be telling you about that. Also, more on the Florida shooting that happened overnight, and an update on Oregon wildfires that we have, as well as bigger ones in California. Maybe your kids are getting back to school, but maybe you're thinking, I need a new back-to-school job. Well, we've got one that might just be what you need. We'll also tell you about the wrap-up to the fair and kind of a unique thing that they had going on at the Jackson County Fair. Also, it's Hemingway Days over the weekend, you know, where all those people start dressing up and competing. Who looks like Ernest Hemingway? We'll tell you about the winner coming up.
It wasn't you, was it?
It was no. You gotta have the beard and the white hair and all that stuff.
All that stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's take a look at the satellite image on the weather scene. Pretty interesting. Look at that. I would say from Kansas west. The United States is under a pretty rigid high pressure ridge all the way out past the Pacific coastline and well out into the ocean, with just a lot of clear skies, and that means warm temperatures and high fire danger. And we will see some triple digits this week. All right, we'll give you the details on the forecast coming up in just a moment, but it's Monday, and there's a lot of news. Here's Steve Johnson to get you caught up.
Good morning, 2.5 minutes after the hour, and here's a look at the latest from the Dove newsroom. Gunfire erupted at a teen party at a Florida nightclub, leaving 2 dead and at least 16 wounded in Fort Myers. Police say that they're questioning 3 people and that they continue to canvass the area for others who may have been involved. Democratic National Committee Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz has stepped down as the latest scandal in the Clinton campaign surfaces. Democratic leaders want it before the convention opens to avoid the bad press. Well, at issue, thousands of DNC staff emails showing partiality favoring Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders in the mode of operations with the Democrats, which is supposed to be neutral. Many Bernie Sanders supporters are now flocking to Philadelphia, taking to the streets of the city of brotherly love to show their support.
Well, I feel the Democratic nominee ought to be Bernie Sanders. I think the Clinton people stole it. I think the corruption is starting to become more publicly known with the WikiLeaks and such.
That is John Heath, and DNC Vice Chair Donna Brazil takes the reins of for the interim for the convention, and through the election she'll have to suspend her contract as a CNN political commentator to avoid conflict of interest charges. German authorities say an Afghan friend of the Munich mall shooter who killed 9 people last week may have known of the attack in advance. Police say the 16-year-old has been arrested, and investigators have retrieved a deleted chat between him and the attacker on the messaging app WhatsApp. Police say that from the chat it appears the friend met with the attacker at the scene of Friday's rampage and knew he had a pistol. Investigators say the 2 teenagers met last year as inpatients at a psychiatric ward. Fire crews continue to make progress on Sunday, battling a wildfire about 9 miles northwest of Condon, Oregon. Blaze burning at the Bureau of Land Management property and Gilliam County Protected Lands. The fire crew has about 9% of it overnight, bringing it almost 8 square miles in size on Sunday. The fire came to within about 200 feet of Highway 206. Blaze was burning mostly on lightly grassy fuels, and full containment expected sometime today. Meanwhile, heat and dry fuel source vegetation have caused another wildfire in California. Thousands of Southern California residents near the edge of the Santa Clarita and Angeles National Forest remain evacuated as 2 separate wildfires once again threaten to join forces. Firefighting efforts have been in full force since Friday. Rugged terrain makes it tough going for responders to the blaze, which is now nearing 25,000 acres. Some Sand Canyon residents being allowed back to their homes, or for some of what's left of the homes. It's been over 2 decades since the blaze in this area. That, combined with years of drought, excessive heat, and low humidity conditions, was a perfect recipe for disaster. Firefighting efforts continuing today. As the school year nears, there are some job options you might have as kids get back into the classroom. The First Student Bus Company has some new job openings for bus drivers in Oregon. You might have seen them on Biddle Road in front of Sherm's Food for Less. Bus driver Chad Francis talks about the opportunities and requirements for around 25 to 30 new positions in the area.
It's awesome. You do require a CDL, a Class B. First Student does free training. You would normally have to pay for that training if you wanted to go be a truck driver or something similar, but they do it for free. And they also pay for all your DMV fees. Once you get hired, you get reimbursed for those.
Wages are between $12 and $16 an hour based on experience, and there are many flexible schedules and routes available. You can contact First Student to see if it could be in your back-to-school plans. For a running event that is usually plagued with wildfire smoke, this year's Siskiyou Outback 15K, 50K, and 50-mile trail runs had nothing but clean mountain air for athletes Saturday morning. Hayden and Ashley Hawks of St. George, Utah have been on a vacation, leading them to races throughout the West Coast. 15-kilometer course along the California-Oregon border on the Pacific Crest Trail seemed to fit Hayden well, who won the race in 57 minutes, 35 seconds.
Well, me and my wife, we went on a vacation. We went over the Lost Coast Trail over in California, ran that, and then just decided to come up here and enjoy this race, kind of get a summer race in.
Ashley Hawks was the first female to cross the line as well in 1 hour, 10 minutes. Eric Gelfie won the 50K in 3 hours, 41 minutes, and 50-mile winner Brett Hornig made it all the way back into California and back in 6 hours, 52 minutes. For complete results of the event, you can visit SiskiyouOutback.com. Well, it wasn't all rides, fast food, and farm animal competitions at this year's Jackson County Fair. For the first time, a Church at the Fair event has been held at the Expo Amphitheater in Central Point. Pastor Dale Schaefer says it began as an idea of outreach planning for the Medford First Church of the Nazarene after putting in place a goal months earlier to find a way to reach out to the Southern Oregon community.
We were considering a large-scale outreach event where we would celebrate the fact Jesus changes lives. So we're going to celebrate baptisms out here today. We're going to really kind of two goals for the event. One is we want to honor God, and we want to honor the guests that come on the campus this weekend.
Schaefer says his goal is to make sure that those hundreds attending the event know that their lives can be changed. Fair organizer Helen Funk says that they're hoping a similar event will be held during next year's fair. 8.5 minutes now after the hour. Let's find out what the weather scene has in store for us this week. Perry's got our forecast.
How about triple digits? Well, that's what we're in for. It looks like in most of the reporting areas towards the end of the week could warm up significantly. Let's start with Northern California. You could see triple digits starting today. That's right, and move up from there, and maybe as hot as 106 by Friday. So we'll keep an eye on that. Over in the Klamath Basin, low 90s, moving to the upper 90s by the end of the week with lots of sunshine. The coast, well, in and out of fog, and once the sunshine pokes through, it's going to move the temperatures well into the 70s and maybe mid-70s by Wednesday on. Bend, Redmond, and Sun River warming up, moving into the low 90s and maybe upper 90s by Friday, but warm, beautiful, and sunny all the way through till the weekend. And for Southern Oregon, we're going to be in the upper 90s for a couple of days, and we're expected to move in the triple digits Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and that could see as high as 105. Now, some forecasts are saying it could cool down towards the weekend. Now, cool down from 105 is what, 104?
That would be a cooler trend, sure.
So we'll keep an eye on that way, but it's going to be warm. After all, it is the end of July, 1st of August. It is summer. We're supposed to be heated up, so we'll keep an eye on that for you. Wall Street still on the red ink this morning. We'll talk to Adam Reed coming up in just a few moments. But in the meantime,
it's Hemingway Days.
Hemingway
Days. At least
Day.
it was this weekend in Key West, Florida. That's where they have it. Ernest Hemingway had a house there, and this guy is a Hemingway, and he looks like one, but he's not that Hemingway. Dave Hemingway, the winner of the Papa Hemingway Lookalike Contest in Key West, Florida. He says he's not related to him. Okay, if you say so. And the competition capping the annual Hemingway Days. It's held at Sloppy Joe's Bar, which was a frequent hangout, we're told, of Ernest Hemingway during his days when he lived in Key West. Like the author, Dave Hemingway says he likes to fish and do some of the things that Ernest Hemingway liked to do. So congratulations to him.
You get an Ernest mini bust, a big medal around your neck.
Yeah, to say you are the Papa Hemingway lookalike guy.
The Papa Hemingway Well, I ate at Hemingway's restaurant in Providence, Rhode Island, and it was delicious.
Is that tied in somehow with Ernest Hemingway?
Well, I guess he was there. I guess he did some writing there up in the New England area a little bit, you know. And so anyway, it's a nice restaurant, and you know, he was honored in the restaurant. So
yeah,
he must have done something there. I'm not sure what. All right, 10 minutes past the hour. And coming up a little bit later on this morning, I'm going to have Dick Morris with us. It's been a little while since I've talked to Dick Morris, several years as a matter of fact. He's got a new book out called Armageddon, and it has to do with Hillary's potential presidency. As you know, he was a political consultant for about 20 years, and 8 or 9 of those years right inside the Clinton camp. And he had his own problems, but he continues to be a contributor to a lot of the news networks out there. So he'll be commenting on the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention, which now today opens up in Philadelphia. And folks, this is not just a bad day or a little bit of a cloud. This has turned out to be a huge mess for the DNC. The chairperson, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who's run the DNC for a couple of years. And can you imagine, you're going into your convention, here it is the eve of your convention, you get to go up there and take the podium and open the convention and start the rules and do all this and that. And they found out late Friday that the DNC emails have been hacked, about 20,000 of them. And it clearly shows that the DNC was rigging the election in favor of Hillary Clinton. Amazing. So the chairwoman, Schultz, is out. She has to resign. There's a new person taking over today. We'll see how that all takes over. In the meantime, the Bernie crowd has gone crazy. Now, here's what happens. I think 2 things possible. Some of the Bernie crowd, a few, will go with Hillary. Not many, but a few. Most will vote for Santa Claus, or Mickey Mouse, or Donald Duck, and some will vote for Trump. But if it is a majority of the Bernie crowd not voting for Hillary under this scandal, that is a horrible mess for her to endure.
You know, and like you say, the timing couldn't be worse. This is not how you want to start out this triumphant crowning of Hillary with this kind of a cloud over you.
She selected Senator Kaine from Virginia to be her running mate, and apparently he's got some issues. Do you know who he is? I mean, I don't think anybody knows who he is. Apparently he's a favored senator in Virginia.
The insiders say he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what they say.
So we'll see. It's an interesting ticket. They all are. But you know, when I saw their logo, which is kind of interesting, it's an H with an arrow through it.
Yes.
And so, but it's Clinton Kaine. And I thought, all right, well, there we go. We'll see where this is going to happen. But listen, I'm telling you, it is not a pretty day in Philadelphia. And the morning protests this morning in light of these email scandals, another email scandal for Hillary, is all appearances are significantly bigger than any protest they had in Cleveland under the Republicans.
Yeah, it appears to be that way.
It appears to be. So the Bernieites are out. They're not happy, and they're waving their fist in the air. We'll see where this goes. But this is the beginning, and it's supposed to open the night. I don't know what Bernie does tonight.
That's right. The fact he's supposed to
he's supposed to speak tonight.
Will be interesting.
So does he lay down and roll over?
Oh, I don't see that happening.
Does he endorse Hillary?
I could see that happening.
I mean, and if they don't allow him to speak, what happens?
I think at this point they have to. If they don't, then it just shows how rigged it is. Because they've already invited him. How do you disinvite somebody like that who's the number 2
Does he
candidate?
pull a Ted Cruz and get up there and not endorse Hillary and strike up his support and away he goes?
Yeah, we'll see. Yes, this may get better ratings than what people thought, just to see what Bernie's going to do.
This is going to be interesting to see. All right, 15 minutes now past the hour. Wall Street in the red. We'll talk to Adam Reed coming up in just a moment. What do you got up next?
Well, we've got headlines from around the state that we'll be taking a gander at, and you know they say the only difference between men and boys are the cost of their toys, you know? Well, that's kind of true, and also maybe the size of some of the toys, too. We'll tell you about something that, especially if you like trains when you were little, well, there's a train you can get when you're big. We'll tell you about that coming up in a few minutes here on The Dove.
This is Mornings on the Dove.
Watch, listen, and read. That's what the Dove is all about. We want to use all the platforms to make sure that you're able to get the gospel. Reading is one of the key things that we do with radio and television, and we want to send you the Word for You today. If you've never had a copy of this devotional, you are really missing it. Only in about 3 minutes a day, you're going to get impacted with powerful scripture and encouraging word that can help you right where you are in your living. And by the way, if you'd like to have a copy for a family member or friend, we'll make that available. It's our way of saying thank you. Thank you for believing in, praying for, and supporting the Dove. So call us today for your copy of the Word for You Today devotional.
Good morning. 19 minutes after the hour, this is Mornings on the Dove as we take a quick look at some of the newspaper headlines around the state, let you know what is going on in the Medford area, in the Mail Tribune. An article that was a big front page article on the Sunday paper, I think is still kind of interesting. It delves with Southern Oregon University, Southern Oregon SOU students heading to the coast to look at some archaeological dig site areas of the Rogue Indian Wars. I don't know if you knew what took place along the coast there in Southern Oregon in the 1850s, but they have an update on that and some of the things they are finding. It's pretty interesting. Heading to Grants Pass in the Daily Courier, something to put on your calendar for next weekend. It's one of the car shows. It's one of the bigger ones in the area. It's the Back to the 50s event, which goes on for quite a few days. You can read about that. As we head to the coast and the world at theworldlink.com, report on Coos County's real estate market on the upswing. Just to give you an idea, in May, this last May, an average home was on the market for 105 days. A year earlier, it was 184 days. So things are definitely heating up in the real estate market. Moving to the Bend area and the Bend Bulletin, Marines are sharpening their skills while kind of cleaning up the Deschutes forest sites. You can find out what they're doing to achieve both of those goals there. And from the Portland area and the Oregon Live website, the Warm Springs Reservation fire grows to about 1,000 acres in just a few hours. This is a fire that begins Sunday afternoon, once again indicating that we are, in fact, in fire season. All right, let's find out now, because of those warm temperatures, what we can expect this week. Perry's got our forecast.
Well, I think we're going to come back to the term hot. It is late July, early August, so pretty typical. Let's take a look at it as you're moving forward. The satellite image shows nothing over the western part of the United States, and the Pacific Northwest is under a really hard high-pressure ridge, keeping the temperatures on the warm to hot side. All right, Northern Cal, you're going to see triple digits, possibly starting today, with sunshine and mild temperatures tonight. Same thing for the Klamath Basin. You'll get into the upper 80s and low 90s, moving up from there. The coast, once the fog gives way and the sunshine pokes through, it's going to push the temperatures into the 70s all week, so very pleasant along the coast, a few clouds at night. The high desert also moving into the 90s now with sunshine, very mild at night, back around 56 or so. And for southern Oregon, we too will move from about the middle to upper 90s. We'll start to see triple digits around Wednesday. So it's going to get hot, and just get ready for that. All right, it's about 21 now past the hour. What you got, big guy?
Well, the toys that you have are probably something, the collections that you have as you grow up. Maybe it's an extension of when you were a little kid. You know, you like to collect certain things. Well, if you like locomotives and all of those HO scale trains and all that stuff, I liked it. I think back to you know, in the 50s and 60s and the Christmas trains and all that stuff people like to have.
You ever heard of the
Marklands? No, I haven't.
Yeah, we had the Marklands.
Or that's like HO size or something?
A little bit bigger than the HO, but not quite as big as the big ones.
Well, if you like playing with those trains when you were a little kid, now the city of Amarillo, Texas, looking to sell a steam locomotive. Really? So you could take your childhood memories and make them pretty big here. The engine weighs about 1 million pounds, retired from service back in 1953. It's been partially restored by volunteers, and now they're saying they want people to buy it. So they're going to sell it. Now, you'd have to move it off city property, so this is a big deal to work with. But, you know, I've been amazed because every once in a while you'll find people who really get into these kinds of things, and they find out that you have to build parts. You have to machine new parts because they're just not making them anymore and they're hard to find. So it's really amazing how some of these people get together with their skills and they can come in and groups of them can fix these trains. I mean, these are big. They're big, massive machines. That's amazing.
In Sacramento is the Railroad Museum, and it is one of the best in the world. And one of my last flying jobs for KCRA television was that one of these old steam engines came across, and if I remember right, it came clear across from like Wisconsin and was steaming across the country heading to the Sacramento Museum.
Oh, okay.
And when it got to Nevada, I flew up to Reno, and it came down the Feather River Canyon, that railroad track that came down through the Feather River Canyon into Sacramento. And here was this steam engine. You could see the white steam smoke before you saw the engine. It was fabulous, and I got incredible alongside of it. And once it got through the hills, we recorded it through the hills. Once it got out into the valley, we got down. I flew down right alongside of it, and the cameraman was on board, and he was taking all these pictures. And so I'm thinking of this. If they got that thing fired up, they could actually, you know, put it on the track and take it up to Sacramento and get it in the museum up there.
Yeah, that would be amazing. From Amarillo, Texas. Yeah.
And they had one of those old turnstiles, you know, where you put the engine on it and you would turn it and then back it into the barn.
Like a carousel thing.
Yeah. So they had one of those there. So, anyway,
so that train is now the one that you saw in the Sacramento.
It's in the Sacramento Museum along with a bunch of other ones.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. All right, 24:25 now past the hour. Let's slip over to D.A. Davison, a guy that never runs out of steam. Yes, sir. He is. He steams his coffee every morning. There he is, Mr. Adam Reed. Well, the numbers aren't steaming this morning. What's going on, buddy?
Hey there. Good morning, guys. Yeah, U.S. markets are starting the day in the red this morning. It's kind of despite a positive day that we saw in both Europe and Asia. You know, there's really not a lot on the economic calendar today. We are still in earnings season, but there's not a lot of economic data that's coming out this morning. We do have some pending comments and some pending guidance as far as monetary policy that's set to come out later this week from some pretty big central banks in Japan, and then also here in the United States from the Federal Reserve. And then there's also some minutes that are going to be released a little bit later from in the week from Brazil. There's been some kind of turmoil that's been going on over there with the real. So I think that what you're really seeing is just the markets are reacting to some pending news that they're expecting to come later in the week. With that being said, the Dow is currently off about 92 points at 18,479. Some of the companies that are leading the way this morning on the downside, Chevron is leading the way. They're off about 2%. And I have exactly 5 companies that are trading in the green this morning on the Dow 30. Leading the way there is IBM. They're up about 0.25% this morning. NASDAQ Composite is also in the red. It's off 7 points at 5,093. S&P 500 is off 9 points at 2,166. Taking a look at our 10-year Treasury notes, they're yielding about 1.57% this Monday morning. I'd say probably the biggest news of the weekend is actually related to Yahoo. Shares of Yahoo are trading off about 2.5% this morning. It's coming following news that a $4.8 billion deal had been reached for Verizon to purchase Yahoo's web assets. It's kind of a crazy story if you think about it. I mean, back in the early 2000s, Yahoo's market capitalization was about $125 billion. Kind of a sad story. They really were one of the big pioneers when it came to search engine, internet search. I actually was reading an article this morning on it that said that at one point in time, Yahoo had an opportunity to purchase both Google and Facebook, but the deals were walked away from by Yahoo. They thought that they were a little bit too expensive, and now both companies are really what I would say is probably part of a bigger story for why Yahoo has seen the decline that it has. The company will, once the internet assets are purchased, is set to remain in place as an investment company under a different name, something that we'll follow here as that transpires over the rest of the year. Taking a look at our commodities, gold is trading off about $9 at $1,323 an ounce. Silver is trading off about 25 cents at $19.44 an ounce. And oil is off about 2% this morning. It's down 88 cents at $43.31 a barrel. That is your market report for this Monday for the Dove. This is Adam Reed with D.A. Davidson, member SIPC here in Medford. I'd like to wish everybody a great start to your week, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
All right, buddy. Thank you. There he is, Adam Reed over there at D.A. Davidson this morning. Good morning to you. The morning news continues. Coming up in a little bit, we'll have Dick Morris with us. It's been a while since we've had Dick on the air with us, and he'll be talking about his latest book called Armageddon. I think it has a twist to it that you may not realize with a title like that. He'll also give us his comments on the Republican National Convention, which is over now, and the Democratic National Convention, which opens up under more than just a cloud, a complete scandal this morning that has cost the chairman of the Democratic National Committee her job. And where does it go from here? Pretty messy stuff, and we'll talk to him about that. Also, Carly Olson, the National Right to Life Oratory winner, and pretty sharp young gal, and talk to her about her winning of that national award. And then Jason and Lisa Licata will be with us talking about their mobile pack update and where that's going as that works towards a big event coming up this fall here in Southern Oregon. So some great guests coming up. In the meantime, today is Thread the Needle Day. Really.
What does that even mean? I'm trying to think.
Well, there are people who continue to sew.
Well, does that have to do with that, or is this a euphemism? Thread the needle day. This is like being very precise in your job.
You know, that could be true, but I think it's where you actually stick it through the
It's far more simple.
And you have magnifying glass, and you're doing one of these things.
I remember an old I Love Lucy show where she does that.
Yeah.
And look on her face is amazing. It's
oh, yes. We all have, arms that are too long or too short. One or the
there
other.
You go.
All right. It's 1:30 as the morning news continues on your Monday morning. What do you got, Steve?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you have too many rats in your life? Yeah. And I'm not talking euphemistically. I mean real rats.
Oh, real rats.
It looks like they do in New Zealand, and they're going to try to get rid of all of them. What? Okay, we'll tell you about that. A whole country getting rid of rats. maybe it can happen. Also, we'll tell you about homeless and conflict between homeless and panhandlers in Bend, as well as all the national news that's going on, including the Democratic controversy.
Have you ever seen a pink rat?
Only if one dyes it, I suppose. Yeah. Otherwise, an albino rat, maybe.
I'll tell you about the pink rat story coming
all
up
right.
with your rat story.
It's all coming up in a few minutes here on the Dove.
This is Mornings on the Dove.
Steve Johnson here from The Morning Show. You know, they say love is a many-splendored thing. Maybe you have found that to be true with that special someone in your life. But how do you really know if you are in love? Chip Ingram is going to be delving into that topic on the Dove TV tonight. You'll want to stay tuned. It begins at 9:30 p.m. right here on the Dove. Good morning, 26 and a half now before the top of the hour. I'm Steve Johnson, and here's a look at the latest from the Dove newsroom. A proposed campaign in Bend will encourage people to donate to charity and not panhandlers. A group under the city's Downtown Livability Committee determined that there was more success in promoting donations than increasing enforcement and citations. Now, Bend Police Chief Jim Porter and the rest of the group told the council last week that money will go further when donated to organizations that help the homeless. An oppressive heat wave and large planned demonstrations are expected to greet attendees today as the Democratic National Convention gets underway in Philadelphia. Attempts at portraying unity have been fractured with the email revelations suggesting that party favored Hillary Clinton during the primaries. Debbie Wasserman Schultz resigned Sunday as the Democratic Party chair. Police say that 3 people are in custody this morning after at least 2 people died and as many as 17 may have been shot at a nightclub in Fort Myers, Florida. Captain Jim Mulligan of the Fort Myers Police Department says there are 2 active crime scenes at Club Blue. And Milligan says the area is now safe, but the street will remain closed to aid in the investigation. So far, over 190 unaccompanied minors and 120 women alone were part of nearly 1,000 refugees and migrants rescued who've arrived to open arms at the port city of Cagliari in Italy. And according to the United Nations Refugee Agency, that brings the number there to, in 2016, to nearly 80,000 that have landed safely. Many from Algeria and others who risk their lives in unseaworthy boats and dinghies. Nearly 3,000 have been reported as dead or missing in those journeys in 2016. Majority of those risking the dangerous crossing are fleeing war, violence, and persecution in one of the top 10 nationalities, making up nearly 83% of arrivals. Well, back to school could mean some back-to-work opportunities for some. The First Student Bus Company can train you to be a bus driver, complete with training available. Recruitment efforts continue on Biddle Road in front of Sherm's Food for Less. Bus driver Dan Morgan says it's a job he enjoys because of the positive influence he can have on young people.
Working for First Student, I really like a lot. I'm almost 60 years old, and I have the time of my life a lot of times. These kids, you can have a certain amount of influence with these kids and giving them a positive attitude and stuff, and sometimes they don't get that at home. And we as bus drivers, we try really hard to do that.
Wages are between $12 and $16 an hour based on experience, and there are many flexible schedules and routes available. You can contact First Student to see if it could be your back-to-school plan. Saturday morning runners took over the Pacific Crest Trail from Mount Ashland in California, and in Siskiyou, the Outback Trail runs in an event featuring a 15K, 50K, and 50-mile runs. It's all about surviving, conquering the numerous peaks and the thin air. Eric Gelfie of Ashland says he began to cramp up during the 50K, but he pushed through for the win.
It went really well. During the middle of the race, I had some stomach issues, and I kept looking over my shoulder thinking someone was going to come catch me. But as they went away, I don't know. Sometimes that's just the nature of these kinds of races. You go through ups and downs.
Gelfie's time for covering the 50 kilometers was 3 hours 41 minutes. Molly Schmeltzel was the first in the ladies 50K event in a time of 4 hours 32 minutes. Hayden and Ashley Hawks, a young married couple from St. George, Utah, were the winners in the 15K. Brett Hornig and Stephanie Worth were the victors in the 50-mile California and back adventure. For complete results of the event, you can visit SiskiyouOutback.com. Well, a few trends have begun at the Jackson County Fair this year that organizers hope will continue next year. In addition to free admission and parking on the fair's last day Sunday, a first ever Church at the Fair service was held at the Expo Amphitheater. Pastor Dale Schaefer of the Medford First Church of the Nazarene says it's the type of event that they'd been looking at to be a part of for the past 2 years with a single goal.
We want to make a big deal that Jesus changes lives. So hopefully, one of the things that happens this weekend is that people walk away knowing that God can change their life regardless of where they're at right now. I don't know that you can quantify that, but I believe that has dividends that it pays off in families, in neighborhoods, in workplaces, and throughout our community when people discover that reality.
Fair manager Helen Funk says this type of event is one they hope to repeat during next year's fair. 22 minutes now before the top of the hour. Let's find out about the weather scene. Perry's got the forecast.
Well, big thankful that those runners are not running this week, especially the 50K. That's 31 miles. Whoa, because things are going to heat up. Take a look at this satellite image. Shows nothing over the western part of the United States. I mean, we're talking Kansas westward is under a high pressure dominance and all the way out past the coastline, and that means warm and in some cases hot temperatures. All right, let's take a look at that. Northern Cal, you could see triple digits starting today and being in the triple digits right on through Friday with the possibility of getting as high as 106. Woo. Over in the Klamath Basin, a little cooler, but not much. You'll be in the 90s and moving to the upper 90s by Friday. The coastline, once the fog lifts and the sun pokes through, you're going to see temperatures really perfect, 70 to 75 along the coast. Just beautiful. The high desert also warming up into the 90s, and then about Thursday on, you'll get to the mid and upper 90s with primarily sunny skies and mild temperatures at night. And for southern Oregon, well, here we go, folks. We're going to see temperatures in the upper 90s for a couple of days, and then we too could slip into triple digits starting Wednesday on, with lots of sunshine, maybe as warm as 105 by Friday, so we'll keep an eye on that. Pretty warm in Portland today, 88, 83 up in Seattle. Salt Lake, look at that, 101, Denver 95, 65 in San Francisco, 112 in Vegas, 110 in Phoenix, and LA coming in at about 88. So that high pressure over the area is keeping the temperatures up. It's hot and it's dry, the high fire danger, so be careful, okay? It's 20 minutes before the hour, and rats.
Rats in your life, you know, you want to get rid of them. And they want to do that in New Zealand, too. Now, as I recall, New Zealand has no snakes, right? And they have real strict requirements not allowing snakes in.
One of the strictest agricultural requirements in the world.
Well, rats got in somehow.
Uh-oh.
So that's been a problem. So you've got this island paradise, and you're thinking, we've got too many rats. I don't know how many rats they have, but now they say it's time to wipe out all of them. Will they be able to do that? Prime Minister John Key announced an ambitious plan today to do that by the year 2050. It's going to take some time to get rid of these dirty rats, for sure. They say this is the most ambitious conservation project attempted anywhere in the world, but they say we can, if we all work together, we can achieve it. So the government's going to put about $20 million towards, over 4 years, towards setting up a company to run the program. All right, so that's just setting up the company to run the program, $20 million, let alone actually kill the rats. Let's hope that
you know, it's real
the
simple.
people there don't turn into dirty rats. And
no, you put a bounty on them. You don't need a company.
A bounty on the rats.
Put
Maybe
a bounty on the rats.
That could be. Yeah. Well, they're saying they think this is possible. Everybody in all over the country will have to be looking out for the rats and I guess getting them. And here's what they say. It'd make a huge difference in the health of the native flora and fauna because rats were not there originally and now they're kind of messing things up. So we'll have to see. We'll check back with you in 2051. To find out if they got rid of those rats. All right.
Let's see. They got their fish from Northern California, McLeod, New Zealand did. Got their trout from there.
Okay.
They got their redwoods from Northern California, and they got their fir trees. And now they don't want the fir trees. They want the fir trees out.
Oh. All right.
But they have one of the strictest agricultural requirements in the world, and their reforestation program is one of the best in the world. So they really watch this really carefully. No snakes.
No snakes.
No snakes. And I've yet to see a kiwi. I've seen one in the zoo, but I have never seen one in the wild yet.
I see.
So anyway.
And we think of kiwi as being a fruit, but it's actually a little animal. Kind of looks like a little grouse
yeah,
kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's a bird with a long beak. It's kind of like the bumblebee of birds, you know. A bumblebee aerodynamically shouldn't fly.
A slow flyer, yeah.
Well, when you see a kiwi, they're fairly good size, and they don't fly, they just run like crazy. So anyway. Hey, 18 minutes now before the hour, and coming up Wednesday, we're going to do something special here at the Dove, and we ask for your prayers and consideration. We have two needs, and we're going to ask you to help us with this. We're in the middle of expansion in some areas, and we need help in other areas. We're down about $20,000 in our cash flow for the summer, and that's can be a lot, cannot be a lot, but for us it is because of our obligations to keep the network on the air in so many locations. And we have an opportunity now to add some new equipment to make life a little easier around here. So Wednesday we're going to set that day aside, asking you to prayerfully consider supporting the Dove in a special way. Now, with that said, we're not asking anybody who's already currently supporting the Dove to do more. We're asking the thousands of you who listen and watch the Dove who have never joined the team to prayerfully consider doing that. And that'll be coming up Wednesday. We'll give you more information as we get towards Wednesday, but that's what it's all about. And be praying about it. You know, I was thinking the other day, Steve, we're averaging now over 100,000 YouTube views a month. That's a lot of people who are using the Dove and being ministered to by the Dove. And if you're new to the listening and the watching of the Dove, understand this, over 86% of our support is from listeners and viewers. So you figure it out. If you're not there, we wouldn't be here. And we've added to the network, you know, we've finally, after 23 years, got Klamath Falls on the air, and I just got the final paperwork on that Friday, you know, and all legal stuff and all the things you got to go through. And we have opportunities to expand in some other areas, and we want to carefully do that. But we're also in the middle of a summer slump a little bit with the cash flow. So the combination of the two, we're going to take one day and ask you to prayerfully consider supporting the Dove in a unique way. But don't do it if you're already involved, and if don't take from your church or any other ministry. But if the Lord's leading you to help us, be praying about Wednesday when we talk about it, and maybe you can call in. It's a quarter before the hour, and looking forward to talking to Carly Olson. She is the National Right to Life National Oratory winner. When you hear young people get up and give a pro-life message, it's pretty stunning. So we'll be talking to her. Dick Morris will be with us. It's been a while since we've had Dick Morris, and should be fun to have him around for a couple of segments as well. What do you got coming up?
Well, we've got a preview of some of the news stories that we're going to be working on for the top of the hour, and an interesting situation here that Some people may have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's when actually they didn't have it at all.
Ooh.
And the treatment for Alzheimer's would have had no effect on them. We'll tell you what happened to one singer-songwriter that you know about who was misdiagnosed and now is working on coming back with a better memory and everything. It's kind of a weird story, but it's an interesting one I think you need to know about. Coming up in about 2 minutes here on The Dove.
This is Mornings on the Dove.
Do you have a hard time getting the Dove on antenna, but you don't want to pay for cable? Why not consider getting the Dove on Roku?
Just get a Roku and plug it in, and you're watching live and on-demand video from the Dove without cable or an antenna.
And if you already have a Roku, be sure to add the Dove and the Dove Newsroom channels today. Good morning. 12 minutes before the top of the hour. This is Mornings on the Dove as we take a look at some of the stories that we're working on. They know a little bit more about the Munich shooter that killed 9 last Friday. They say an Afghan friend of him may have known about this advance shooting. And in fact, the two met as they were both inpatients at a psychiatric ward. We'll tell you about that. More Bernie support, especially in what has happened there. Protesters now at the Democratic National Convention. This could really get hot because of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who is the DNC chairwoman, stepping down after emails were leaked that it looked as if the DNC, Democratic National Convention, was actually supporting Hillary all along and not being that fair and impartial organization that should have forwarded all the candidates together. By the way, Bernie speaks before the convention tonight. What's he going to say? All right, some back-to-school jobs. Maybe your kids are heading back to school. Maybe you're thinking, I should change jobs. Well, there's one that'll do actually both, where you can drive a school bus. Have you ever thought of doing that and have an impact on kids' lives that way? Well, it's a possibility. We'll tell you about it. More on some trail runs this weekend, several of them heading off into California and back into Oregon. We'll tell you about the winners and some of the things that happened there. And also Church at the Fair, the first time this has ever happened where a church takes over the Expo Amphitheater and has a church service outside where you've seen a lot of Dove Dove concerts as well out there. So we'll tell you what went on there and how they want to continue doing that for the next year. All right, here you go. A person misdiagnosed. You hear about this every once in a while. Somebody's just not getting better. They've been treated with something, and then you find out this had nothing to do with it. Apparently, that's what's happened with Chris Christopherson, the actor and musician that's been around for many years. Apparently, he's had some memory problems in recent years, and he was diagnosed as having Alzheimer's. Well, they've been treating him for that, and he wasn't getting any better. Now they've realized, hold on, it's Lyme disease. Isn't that interesting? That can also cause neurological problems, memory issues, and what some people say is brain fog, as well as other things. The test came back positive for that. And so for the past 6 or 7 years, he'd been becoming forgetful. So he's had this for some time now, that many years. And they say Lyme disease can sometimes mimic Alzheimer's, but there is no effective treatment for Alzheimer's. However, antibiotics can work to help Lyme disease. So now a person says, he's as sharp as he's been in the last 20 years because of the treatments. He's had some of those treatments now for this. And his wife, Lisa, and his 8 children see a different Chris right now, and they say this is kind of a modern-day medical miracle. Well, it was just a misdiagnosis, and now it was Lyme disease he had, and he's getting better. So good news for that.
A question and a thought.
Yeah.
Did he go to Germany for treatment?
You know, I don't know how they came about finding this out. I'm not sure.
Because Lyme disease, from what I understand, Lyme disease in the United States is still not recognized as a disease.
Really? Well, maybe it will be now because of the
It could be. So when you
on.
have a high-profile person like this who comes down with it and diagnosed with it, but apparently the medical community in the United States doesn't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole, and people are finding themselves going to Germany for treatment.
Well, that's too bad. Well, with this kind of a high-profile individual and the results, that might change.
All from a mosquito bite.
Or a tick bite, or any of those things.
So it's kind of interesting. All right, it's 9 minutes before the hour. All right, let's take a look at the weather map. It's really interesting. It's been a long time since we've seen the western part of the United States locked in with high pressure like this is, and the Pacific Northwest in particular. And it's going to be around most of the week, producing hot, dry weather. Northern Cal, good morning. You're going to get up into the triple digits, possibly starting today, and moving up from there with hot, dry weather right on through until Friday. Over in the Klamath Basin, you too will see temperatures moving into the low 90s starting today, and then you'll climb from there through the rest of the week. The coast, well, depending on when the fog lifts and the sun breaks through the fog, but when the sun is out, it's going to push the temperatures well into the 70s up and down the southern Oregon coastline, so it should be beautiful. The Bend, Redmond, Sun River area, high desert, it's going to get up into the upper 80s and low 90s for a couple of days, and then moving upward from there with lots of sunshine. Excuse me. And for southern Oregon, well, we're going to move into the mid to upper 90s today, and we should start seeing triple digits for about Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on. We could see temperatures getting into the triple digits and at times quite warm. So there we go. All right, Wall Street's still off about, excuse me, about 87 points. The Nasdaq down about 7 points. We'll keep an eye on that. All right, a couple things. What does Bernie say tonight? As you may have been listening, this story broke sometime Friday. It built pretty to high levels of intensity through the weekend, and that is that the Democratic National Committee emails were hacked, about 20,000 of them, and it clearly proves that the DNC was working behind the scenes to rig the election to favor Hillary Clinton and not Bernie Sanders. Some of the emails were very personal against Bernie Sanders, and this has erupted now. And the chairman of the DNC, chairwoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, has now resigned as chairperson. Rumors are that Hillary's going to hire. I guess we got to wait and see if that actually is going to happen. But in the meantime, the main stage tonight at the DNC convention in Philadelphia is Bernie Sanders. What does he say? And the other thing is, I wonder if Bernie was promised a position in the Hillary cabinet somewhere.
Boy, I don't know. You know, there's some bad blood there. I don't know if that would happen.
And so here he is tonight. Does he pull a Ted Cruz and not endorse Hillary or dis-endorse Hillary Clinton? His supporters are out in the street this morning there in Philadelphia with a fairly significant protest. I mean, they're saying that this protest is bigger than anything they saw in Cleveland during the Republicans. And this is all against Hillary. It's all against the DNC. So what happens here? We've never seen this before. I mean, the convention hasn't even opened, and it's not under the cloud of a scandal. It is clearly under a full-blown scandal that has pretty much hit the airways. And I don't know what Bernie says tonight. He gets up and does he shake it off? What does that do for him? Does he fire it all up? What does that do for him? Does he call for a vote? I think what's going to happen tomorrow, well, their rules probably will get underway sometime today. Their vote to put Hillary in as the nominees tomorrow, that could be an eruption on the floor tomorrow.
Well, knowing that here Bernie has said, look, I've been cheated all this time, and now he's got the evidence to show it, I just don't see him walking away from this or throwing support behind it. I wouldn't doubt that we would see something like asking to say, you know what, we need to get this resolved because we're at a crisis stage. I could hear him saying those words, you know. And would he say, look, I'm still in the race now. This has changed everything. We could, because they haven't actually voted for Hillary yet, officially. Does he have the votes? Probably not, but boy, what a disruption this would be.
Well, they're saying now the Democratic delegation works different than the Republican one. And the delegate, what they call super delegates on the Democratic side can be pretty much won over very, very early into a campaign.
And would this be enough to make them change?
Would this be enough to have a super delegate say, you know what, my party is now scandalous. I cannot even support my party. In other words, I can't be a part of something that was as criminal as this. And super delegates being peeled off against Hillary. Who knows which way? You know they're scrambling behind the scenes to keep a lid on this thing, but this is going to spill over. But it has a lot to do with what Bernie does tonight. And if Bernie, who knows what he's going to say, but whatever he says will determine how they do the vote tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening. So
it's going to be an interesting 24 hours.
All right. The scripture today is found in Philippians chapter 1, verse 21. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. Paul writing there. Yep. All right, there's a little bit of an attitude adjuster. Stick around. Looking forward to talking to Carly Olson, the national winner of the Right to Life Oratory Contest. Jason and Jesse Licata is going to be in the studio. We'll get an update there on the Mobile Pack project. And then Dick Morris will be with us commenting on both conventions. That and a whole lot more as we continue here this morning.
Good morning, I'm Steve Johnson, and here's a look at the latest from the Dove newsroom. German authorities say an Afghan friend of the Munich Mall shooter who killed 9 people last week may have known of the attack in advance. Police say the 16-year-old has been arrested, and investigators have retrieved a deleted chat between him and the attacker on the message app WhatsApp. Police say that from the chat, it appears that the friend met with the attacker at the scene of Friday's rampage and knew he had a pistol. Investigators say the 2 teenagers met last year as inpatients at a psychiatric ward. Democratic National Committee Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz will step down as the latest scandal in the Clinton camp surfaces. DNC leaders wanted to before the convention opens to avoid bad press. Well, at issue, thousands of DNC staff emails showing partiality favoring Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders in the mode of operations of the Democratic National Convention, which is supposed to be neutral. Many Bernie Sanders supporters are now flocking to Philadelphia, taking to the streets of the city of brotherly love to show their support.
Well, I feel the Democratic nominee ought to be Bernie Sanders. I think the Clinton people stole it. I think the corruption is starting to become more publicly known with the WikiLeaks and such.
DNC Vice Chair Donna Brazil takes the reins in the interim for the convention, and through the election, she'll have to suspend her contract as a CNN political commentator to avoid conflict of interest charges. As the school year nears, there are some job openings that you might have as a kid as kids get back into the classroom. The First Student Bus Company has some new job openings for bus drivers in Oregon. You might have seen them on Biddle Road in front of Sherm's Food for Less. Bus driver Chad Francis talks about the opportunities and requirements for around 25 to 30 new positions in the area.
It's awesome. You do require a CDL, a Class B. First Student does free training. You would normally have to pay for that training if you wanted to go be a truck driver or something similar, but they do it for free. And they also pay for all your DMV fees. Once you get hired, you get reimbursed for those.
Wages are between $12 and $16 an hour based on experience, and there are many flexible schedules and routes available. You can contact First Student to see if it could be in your plans for back-to-school era. Well, for running an event that is usually plagued with wildfire smoke, this year's Siskiyou Outback 15K, 50K, and 50-mile trail runs had nothing but clean mountain air for athletes Saturday morning. Hayden and Ashley Hawks of St. George, Utah have been on vacation, leading them to races throughout the West Coast. 15-kilometer course along the California-Oregon border on the Pacific Crest Trail seemed to fit Hayden well. He won the race in 57 minutes, 35 seconds. Let's take a look now at the weather scene for our area and for Northern California and Wairika. Triple digits for the rest of the week, 100 today, and that's the low for the highs. Could get up to 106 by Friday. As we move into the Klamath Basin, 91 today and tomorrow, with temperatures also on the rise to 98 both Thursday and Friday. Moving along the Oregon coast, cooler temperatures, of course. Slight chance of rain today and tomorrow with a high of only 70 today. Could get up to 75 by Wednesday through Friday with sunny skies for Wednesday and Thursday. As we move into Central Oregon, low 90s are on tap for the beginning of the week with a high of 91 today, 90 on Wednesday, could get up to 96 by Friday. And for Southern Oregon in the Medford area, 97 today and tomorrow, enjoy that. Then triple digits starting on Wednesday, could get up to 105 by Friday. And that is a look at news and weather. You're up to date with the latest right here on the Dove.